How do I know if I'm guided? How do I know if Allah is happy with me? I mean, I'm trying to do this, and this, but I'm not sure if this is good enough or, whether Allah will accept it or not. And people have these kinds of notions, right? And then people ask, how do I know if my intentions are pure? And how do I know if my heart is clean? And I'm trying to do this dhikr and that dua, and which dua can I make that I can become XYZ? And so there's all this mystery as to where do I stand with Allah. So the first thing I'd like to share with you about that is that, the rock sticking out of the water is a pretty prominent milestone. It's not a mysterious thing. It's a pretty obvious milestone, right? Guidance is not some crazy mystical thing until you see a parrot in your dream. You don't know if you're guided or not. There's nothing crazy about guidance. Guidance is straightforward and simple. It's straightforward and simple. The first milestone in guidance is you are away from major evils. First milestone. You're doing good. Sometimes moms bring their sons to me. It's my favorite thing to, see moms humiliate their teenage sons by bringing them to Nouman Ali Khan and saying, Dr. Nouman, he's good, he prays, but he wakes I have to wake him up for Fajr. I was like, Auntie, you have to wake him up for Fajr? Really? Yeah, he doesn't wake up on his own. That's horrible. This kid is just going straight to hell. No, he's not. There are kids who you could wake them up for Fajr and they'll hit you back. Your kid actually gets up and prays. One mother complained to me that he goes to the masjid but he's never there before the adhan. What planet are you living on? What planet are you living on? Compare this to the vast majority of kids his age. What he's doing, you should give him an award every morning. Make him his favorite breakfast every morning. For God's sake, he's going to the masjid. That's huge. She came to me to complain about him. I patted him on the back. I said, good job, man. Keep it up. That's awesome. I told off his mom, you should be proud. And he's like, he's like, we have these superficially high standards of what it means to be guided. For a young man to do that, to fight his sleep and, pray, to stay out of bad company. One came to me and said, he's 18 years old, he doesn't hang out with girls, he doesn't do drugs, he doesn't drink, he prays 5 times a day. It's just that sometimes he plays video games. And I said, Auntie, let him play more video games. Because the stuff he's not doing is amazing. The stuff he would have been doing otherwise. Or he really loves basketball, or he spends a lot of time playing with his friends. I was like, when he goes on the weekend to play with his friends, does he pray? Yeah. So let him play. What's wrong with that? Some kid's really happy right now. Then people come to me especially with kids, right? Ustadh, I really want your advice on parenting. Okay, sure, yeah. How old is your child? 6 months. Let him be a baby. I really need your advice on how to teach my child Quran. He's 2 years old. Chill out. He's 2 years old. Let him be a baby. You don't need to turn him into a hafiz of Quran at 3 years old. Chill out. Relax. Why do you have to force these standards on them? Who created these standards anyway? And now what's unfortunately happened in terms of guidance is the majority of the ummah have the completely false standards of guidance. Completely false. If my child has memorized the Quran, he's guided, or she's guided. If my child knows how to recite the Quran or finish reciting the Quran, they're guided. What? There are plenty of kids that have memorized the entire Quran and they are now in gangs. I know plenty of them in different cities in this country that I can name that are in jail, that are hufaz of Quran. They're in jail. That dealt drugs. Why am I saying that to you? Because our deen did not say once you memorize Allah's book, you'll be guided. Or once you recite beautifully, you'll be guided. Or once you dress a certain way, you'll be guided. It didn't say these things. Once you come to Sunday school, you'll be guided. Or when you go to Islamic school, you'll be guided. Guidance is actually some very fundamental milestones. The way you think, the way you prioritize life, the way you treat people. Our guidance fundamentally is first and foremost attitude and some fundamental behavior. That's it. That's guidance. Knowledge, worship, all of those things, they enhance guidance. They further guidance. They support guidance. But we have removed from the equation our attitudes, our thought process, our behavior, our mannerisms. They don't have to do with guidance. It's just recitation and worship and appearance. That's guidance. That's all artificial. That's not guidance at all. So that road needs to be reestablished. And that road is not just in reciting the Qur'an, it's actually in restoring the thought process that the Qur'an inspired. It wanted people to think a certain way, to live their lives a certain way. Any case, so وَأَهْدِيَكَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ, the road to guidance is a very simple one. On the side note, some of you might think this is very controversial. I have to share with you what I'm convinced of, not anything else. You are completely free to disagree. We're all students here, so am I, and I may be entirely wrong. But let me just tell you, when you study the Qur'an, beginning to end, and you study the life of our Messenger, beginning to end, and the advice that he used to give people when they would come to him and say, I want to be a better person, I want to go to Jannah, what should I do? The advice that he would give would be very simple. It's never complicated. It's never complicated. It's always simple. And it's not like, here are the 80 things you do to purify your heart. Or here's the manual of checking whether or not your heart is clean. No, there was nothing like that. It was just straightforward. How about afshu salam wa at'imu ta'am? How about you just say salam to people and feed people? Be more hospitable. Cool. That's what I gotta do? Yeah, just do that. قُلْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِيمُ. Just say La ilaha illallah and be firm. Another one comes and he says, La taghdab, don't be angry. You have a temper issue, don't be so mad. Work on your temper. That's it. Done. What about Qiyamul Layl? What about fasting on Mondays and Thursdays? What about that? He didn't give the whole list. We make the whole list based on multiple hadith, on multiple occasions. But do you ever wonder why the Prophet ﷺ didn't? One person came and sat him down and gave him the entire list, all in one shot. He didn't. Why not? Because the deen is simple. It doesn't ask much of you. It doesn't put a lot of burdens on you. But now because we want to mystify the subject, we want to have a manual of purification, which is exhaustive, and here are the 400 things that you must purify your tongue from, and here are the 500 things to cleanse your heart, and here's what you do with your eyes, and here's what you do with your limbs, and you're just like, Islam is, that's intense. And when you read more and more of that stuff, you realize, I'll never be that. And then on top of that, we hear stories in our sermons, in our khutbah all the time about people who prayed tahajjud every single night, and they fasted, they fasted every day they could, and on top of that, they made so much dua to Allah that lions wouldn't eat them even if the lion was hungry, and it would bring them food or something, and you hear these crazy stories, and then all you get in your head is, man, those people were amazing, I am horrible. They had guidance way back when, I can't have it. That's just way out of my league. That's the stories we hear. Like for example, even when it comes to giving in the path of Allah. What story you hear all the time? Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhuma gave half, Abu Bakr gave everything. You've heard the story many, many times? Are those the only two Sahaba? There are thousands of companions. Some gave a date. Some gave very little. They also saw Umar. They also saw Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. They saw them, but they couldn't give like that. They're not in that situation and they're not at that level. What we do is we take the most extreme high examples and we make it sound like that's the standard for everybody. That wasn't even the standard for the people around at the time. They were even an extreme, awesome case for the people around them. What to speak of us? It's not fair to do that. And Allah spoke about all of the companions and said, radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu. We don't talk about the other stories. We don't talk about the wild stories. We don't talk about the stories where a sahabi comes to the Prophet ﷺ and says, Ya Rasulullah, I did something bad. What'd you do? I was a girl, I was walking by, she looked really pretty, I went over and kissed her. It happened in Medina. Radiyallahu anhum. And he's like, pray 2 rak'ah. Done. Move on with your life. Just apologize and just don't make a big deal out of it. I'm not saying you go do that, guys. Just chill out. But I'm saying they were human. They were human. They weren't walking above water. It's not like that. So the notion of guidance is not some mystical, crazy thing. It's a simple religion. It's asking you to do simple changes. Make simple changes in your life, not big ones. What is wrong, all of you know. What is right, all of you know. All the prophets from history until now that the Quran records and talks about what evils they pointed out are the evils. They're the ones you get away from. Then there's of course icing on the cake. Walk into the masjid with the right foot. Make this dua before you go into the bathroom. Make this dua when you eat, etc. Those adhkar and those enhancements, those are basically bettering your religion. They're improving it. But that's actually icing on the cake. The cake itself, you can't forget. That's the fundamentals, and they're not many. They're not many. This is why the Prophet ﷺ made sure when you teach people religion, yassira wa la tu'assira. Make things easy, don't make things hard. Make things simple, make things easy, don't make them hard.